From kid entrepreneur to hero, a shocking true story of innocence and redemption. Hey, so let me tell you this wild story about when I was 10 years old. I thought I was running my mom's vitamin business, like a real boss. I had 47 regular customers, kept super neat records, and made $600 a week. When the police found my notebook, I was so excited to show them my awesome business plan and customer spreadsheets. I even wore a pin I made that said entrepreneur to court and asked the judge who'd take over the business after my mom got 12 years in jail for making me sell drugs without me knowing. So, when I was 10, I started helping with mom's vitamin D business because she asked me to. I thought I was the luckiest kid ever. While my friends were selling lemonade or babysitting, I was learning to count money and do taxes. I figured mom had me deliver stuff in person because she trusted me to make customers happy. Even when I had to walk 6 blocks in the rain with extra supplies or when Mr. Jenkins yelled at me for waking him up, I felt super important. Whenever my teacher or friends asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I'd say entrepreneur and they'd be so impressed that I even knew that word. I loved their compliments about how ambitious I was. Nobody ever wondered why I knew legal terms like intent to distribute or why I always had tons of cash in my backpack. They just thought I was a kid playing pretend. One afternoon, Mom looked really rough when she came out of her room. I ran to her with my notebook, saying, "Mommy, look. I got 3 new customers today, all by myself." They said I was so smart. She barely looked at me and said, "That's great, baby." Her hair was messy, and she kept scratching her arms. She asked, "Baby, what day is it?" I said, "Thursday," super excited. I thought if I was hyped about the business, she'd want to hear my ideas, but her face went pale. "No, no, no," she said, grabbing the calendar off the wall. "Where's Carlos? He said Wednesday. He promised he'd be here Wednesday." She started pacing, dialing her phone, muttering, "Pick up, pick up." When she threw her phone at the wall, I knew what she needed. "Mom, I got $200 early from the Torres family today," I said. Her face softened like magic. She counted the money twice, then hugged me tight. "That's my smart baby. My little hustler. You saved Mommy's day." But the hug was quick because she grabbed her keys and ran out, saying, "I'll be back. Lock the door." "Okay." Her car screeched away. I didn't even get to ask about dinner. So, I made mac and cheese and practiced my sales pitch to the empty kitchen, like always. Like a good business kid, I organized my notebook with customer profiles. Mom checked my notes every night, saying I was super organized. But as I got older, I noticed weird stuff about Mom. Her hands shook when she sorted bottles. She'd count the same pills over and over. She'd freak out if even one was missing. She'd send me to my room during her supplier calls, but I heard her through the vents, begging someone named Juan for more time, saying she'd pay up. Once, I heard her cry, saying something about using her kid but having no choice. I thought running a business was just stressful for grown-ups. To help her, I figured out which customers were tricky. Mr. Torres, who'd text me a million times if I was late. Jennifer from the yellow apartment, who always met me at the corner, looking nervous. The college kids who bought tons and joked about studying better with our vitamins. Rain or shine, homework or not, I was out there selling. Mom gave me bigger commissions, like $20 some weeks. I saved every cent in a shoebox, dreaming of a real office someday. Then came a Tuesday that flipped everything. I couldn't find my notebook anywhere. But then the principal called me to her office. 2 police officers and a lady in a pink suit were there, holding my notebook. I was so relieved. The officer said, "Super nice. We need to know about your mom's vitamin business." I grinned big and told them everything: my delivery routes, my record keeping, my business cards I made at the library, my collection tricks, my big plans to grow the business. I thought they'd be amazed. But their mouths dropped, and they gave each other weird looks I didn't get. I didn't know it then, but my whole life was about to change. The lady in pink said, soft but serious, "We need to call someone to pick you up while your mom helps the police with questions." My heart raced. Mom helping the police sounded cool. Maybe they wanted our business tips. I said, "Can you call Jennifer from the yellow apartment? She's Mom's friend and a great customer." The adults looked at each other again. The lady nodded and asked for Jennifer's number. I gave it from memory, proud of my customer skills. 20 minutes later, Jennifer walked in. When she saw the police, she froze. Her face went white, and her hands shook, like moms sometimes did. "Hi, Jennifer," I waved, super excited. Guess what? I showed the police our business records. They loved our customer list and delivery schedules. I even told them about your Tuesday orders. Jennifer's legs wobbled. She grabbed the doorframe, staring at the officers like they had guns, not notebooks. The lady in pink helped her to a chair, saying, "It's okay. We just need you to watch him for a bit." Jennifer whispered, "Where's his mom?" An officer said, "She's helping with our investigation." I watched Jennifer sign papers, her hands shaking so bad she could barely hold the pen. The lady in pink patted her shoulder, but Jennifer looked like she might puke. In her car, I buckled up and started planning. "Jennifer, can we stop by the Torres house? It's Thursday, and I need to collect their payment. Mr. Torres gets mad if we're late. He texted me 3 times already." Jennifer slammed the brakes so hard I jerked forward. She pulled over, opened her door, and threw up on the road. I was confused. "Are you sick?" I asked. "Mom gets sick sometimes too. Want some vitamins? I have extras in my backpack." Jennifer started crying, big sobs that shook her whole body. She kept looking at me in the rearview mirror, like I'd said something awful. "I'm sorry," I said fast. "I didn't mean to upset you. Hey, I've got an idea. What if we start a referral program? You bring new customers, you get a discount." Jennifer's hands gripped the wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. She drove to her apartment in silence, tears streaming down her face. I kept talking about profit margins and customer tricks to cheer her up. Her place smelled like smoke and something gross. Empty bottles were all over the coffee table, and dishes piled up in the sink. She flopped on the couch, head in her hands. "Can I use your phone?" I asked. "I need to call the Torres family about tomorrow's delivery, and the Johnsons haven't paid yet? Oh, and I should check with the college kids about their Friday order." Jennifer looked at me with red, puffy eyes. "How many customers do you have?" I stood tall. 47 regulars, plus a dozen who order sometimes. "Mom says I'm a natural salesman. Want to see my spreadsheet?" I made it at the library. Jennifer ran to the bathroom and threw up again. When she came back, she was holding her phone, hands shaking. She whispered into it, "It's worse than we thought. The kid knows everything, every customer, every delivery." Oh God, what have we done? I didn't get why she was so upset. Of course I knew everything. I ran the customer list. She hung up and called someone else, crying so hard I could barely hear her. "I can't do this. I'm sick too. Please, send someone else." An hour later, the lady in pink showed up with another woman who smiled a lot. Jennifer was curled up on the couch, rocking back and forth, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I can't, I'm sick." I didn't get why everyone kept saying they were sick. Maybe a bug was going around. I thought we should sell more vitamin D. The new people took me to a big building with bright lights and offices. The lady in pink stayed while the other woman made calls. They kept asking if I was hungry or tired, but I was too excited about all the attention to eat. "We found emergency foster parents," the lady said. "They'll take care of you tonight." An older couple came, looking nervous but nice. The woman had gray hair and kind eyes. The man kept his arm around her. They signed papers while I packed my backpack, making sure my business stuff was safe. "What's in the bag, sweetheart?" the foster mom asked. "My business stuff." I unzipped it proudly. Customer lists, schedules, and today's collections. I showed them $600 in cash. "It's a great week. The Torres family paid early, and Jennifer gave me a bonus for awesome service." Their faces went pale. The foster dad stepped back, pulling out his phone. The foster mom stared at the money like it was dangerous. "I've got payment sheets, too," I said, pulling out papers. "Every customer, every payment, every delivery for 2 years. Mom says good records are key for a successful business." The lady in pink took my papers, reading them fast. Her face got whiter with every page. She whispered to another worker, who ran off. The foster parents were whispering in the corner, saying stuff like, "Can't risk our other kids. Safety issues, not ready for this." 20 minutes later, they were gone, and I was headed to another building with lots of kids, bunk beds, and a TV room that smelled like old socks. "This is a temporary shelter," the lady in pink said. "Just for tonight while we sort things out." I nodded, already planning how to keep the business going from here. Maybe some kids would want to buy or even join the business. They checked my notebook but let me keep it. A staff member's face turned green reading my customer profiles. She whispered to her boss, who made calls. That night, in a strange bunk bed, I heard kids snoring and crying. I reviewed tomorrow's delivery schedule by dim light. The Torres family needed their order. Jennifer needed her Friday refill. The college kids wanted extra for weekends. I'd have to let them know about the delay. Mom taught me good communication was key during changes. The next morning, I saw Mom's face on the TV in the common room. The news said something about a shocking case of a kid being used in a drug operation. I sat up, excited for free advertising. Mom always said publicity cost a lot, but here we were on the news. That's my mom, I told a kid nearby. We run a vitamin business. I'm head of customer relations. The kids backed away like I was sick. An older boy shook his head. That's not vitamins, dummy. Your mom had you selling drugs. I said, no way, there's special vitamins to make people feel better. I know the whole product list if you want to hear it. He laughed, but it wasn't nice. Man, you really don't get it. Your mom had you selling to addicts. I was about to argue, when my teacher, Miss Rodriguez, showed up, tears in her eyes. The staff let her in, and she sat next to me carefully. Oh, honey, she said, her voice shaky. I'm so sorry, I should have known. All those times you talked about being an entrepreneur? All your business plans. You said I had the best business model in class. I reminded her, proud. You gave me an A+ on my customer retention presentation. She cried harder. I thought you were just playing pretend, like kids play house. I praised your creativity. I never thought. She hugged me, and I was confused by her tears. Why was everyone upset about my success? A lawyer came after lunch, looking kind but serious. He asked about the business with a notepad. This is awesome, I said, excited. To share details, we have 47 regular customers. The Torres family buys the most. They pay $200 every Thursday, sometimes more. Jennifer gets hers on Tuesday afternoons at the corner of 5th and Main. He wrote fast, looking more worried with every word. When I listed the college kids' orders, he stopped me. Do you know what these vitamins really were? He asked gently. Mom said they're special vitamins to help sick people. I said, blue ones for energy, white ones for pain, yellow ones for staying awake to study. He rubbed his face. Has anyone told you why your mom was arrested? She's helping the police with questions, I said, like the lady in pink told me. Probably about taxes or rules. Mom said the government makes it hard for small businesses. That evening, the shelter phone rang. It was Mom. I grabbed it, excited. Mom, we're on TV. The news talked about our business, and I gave the police our customer list to help us grow. Baby, stop, she said, sounding rough and scared. Stop talking about the business. But Mom, I made $600 this week. The Torres family paid early. Stop, she was crying. No more, baby. Don't talk about it to anyone. Did I do something wrong? I asked, confused. I followed all your rules. I kept perfect records. I never missed a delivery. No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. Mommy did. I'm so sorry. The phone clicked off. I stood there, holding it, more confused than ever. How could a successful business be wrong? The next day, an investigator came with boxes of evidence, including my notebook and Mom's phone records. She showed me texts. What does need 30 blues by Thursday mean? She asked. Easy, I said, happy to help. Blue vitamins, 30 pills, Thursday delivery. Probably the Torres family. They buy a lot. She showed another text. White angels for the usual spot. That's Jennifer's white vitamins, I said. She calls them angels. The spot is 5th and Main. She doesn't like daytime deliveries at her apartment. The investigator and my lawyer shared a look. She showed me papers with phone numbers and dates. Recognize this number? She asked, pointing to one in yellow. That's Mr. Torres, I said. He called 17 times last Tuesday. He gets mad when deliveries are late. Mom says he's tough but pays well, so we keep him happy. I kept explaining code words and schedules. The investigator looked more serious with each answer. You have a great memory, she said. Thanks, I said. Mom says a good entrepreneur knows their business inside out. Oh, can someone call Mr. Torres? He's probably mad I missed yesterday. Mr. Torres is arrested, she said, quietly. My jaw dropped. Arrested? Why? He's just a customer. He only got mad when orders were late. He wasn't just a customer, she said. He was a big drug dealer. We've been after him for years. The words didn't make sense, drug dealer. But he bought vitamins. No, I said. You're wrong. We sell vitamins. Special vitamins. Mom said so. But something cold hit my stomach. Mom's shaky hands. Customers meeting at corners. Her crying about using her kid. The room spun. I gripped the table, trying to understand. I want to go home, I said. I have deliveries. Customers need me. You can't go home, she said softly. No more deliveries. That night, the news called me the 10-year-old drug courier. They said it was one of the worst cases of a kid being used in the county. I hid under my pillow, but I heard kids whispering about me. It was heartbreaking when I started to see the truth. Everyone's faces going pale as I showed off my records. My heart broke realizing my world was built on lies. The drug dealers. Kid who didn't even know. How didn't I know? I thought about bragging to my friends about being an entrepreneur. Teachers praising my ambition. Feeling special carrying my backpack of vitamins. The lady in pink found me crying in my bunk. She sat there quietly, then gave me a tissue. It's not your fault, she said. You were just a kid helping your mom. I was good at it, I whispered. Really good. I know, she said sadly. That's what makes this so sad. The next morning, more investigators came with more questions and proof my vitamins weren't vitamins. They showed me videos, photos of customers, and call recordings. That's Jennifer. I pointed to a blurry photo. She's a Tuesday regular. Jennifer's in custody, the investigator said. She's in a treatment program. Treatment for what? I wanted to ask, but I was starting to get it. The shaky hands, desperate calls, customers looking sick without their vitamins. My Aunt Teresa came 3 days later. She hadn't seen Mom in years and looked tired signing custody papers. I knew her from old photos, but she seemed smaller. She helped me pack while I talked about keeping customers happy during changes. She froze when she found my supply list in my math book. She read it, folded it, and put it in her purse without a word. The drive to her house took 2 hours. I kept thinking about lost money from missed deliveries and if Mom got someone to cover my roots. Aunt Teresa kept looking at me in the mirror, worried. Her house smelled like candles and clean clothes, so different from our apartment. She showed me a room with dinosaur wallpaper and rocket sheets. While she made dinner, I found her daughter, Sophia, playing with fake coins. Perfect chance for a business lesson. I showed her how to calculate profits with her play money. Aunt Teresa rushed in when she heard me talking about customer costs, grabbed the coins, and sent Sophia to wash her hands. She knelt down, serious, and said we wouldn't talk about the business anymore. It wasn't real. I nodded, but I was still thinking about how many days of missed deliveries would lose our customers. The next morning, she took me to a place with colorful walls and toys. Dr. Catherine, my therapist, smiled and led me to her office. I showed her my crayon business plan from art time at the shelter. She asked about my routes and customer rules. I explained everything, super proud of my system. She took notes, nodding. After, she talked to Aunt Teresa in the hall. I heard bits like complete indoctrination and therapeutic intervention that I didn't get. That afternoon, Aunt Teresa took me to a group for kids with parents who had addiction problems. Other kids talked about their parents being sick, but I said my case was different. We were entrepreneurs, not addicts. I explained our business model. A girl named Kat said her dad was an entrepreneur too, until police took him for selling drugs. I corrected her vitamins, not drugs. The room got quiet, and kids gave each other looks like at the shelter. At Aunt Teresa's, I found newspaper clippings about Mom's case on her desk while looking for paper to make a customer plan. Headlines like Mother Uses Child in Drug Ring and 10-year-old Unwitting Drug Courier hurt my stomach. I made a scrapbook of them, thinking it was great publicity for our business. Aunt Teresa found me with it and went pale. She sat me down and tried explaining drugs and addiction, but I was too busy thinking about media coverage for investors. The next week, Mom's lawyer came. He said Mom claimed I wanted to help the business to get a shorter sentence. I nodded, excited. Of course, I wanted to help. I was proud of our success. He tried again, asking if I knew the vitamins were illegal. I said Mom had permits and paid taxes. He showed me papers proving she didn't, but I thought they were wrong. When the prosecutor came, I showed her my customer surveys and loyalty program. She asked if I knew the business well, and I said I knew everything: customers, routes, prices. She thanked me, but she and my lawyer looked worried. They found out Carlos was arrested because of my details. I worried about our supply chain, and asked if someone told our customers about delays. The adults looked sad and shocked. School got tricky. They moved me to a new school where no one knew my story. But I kept talking about my business. For an essay about role models, I wrote about Mom teaching me entrepreneurship. My new teacher, Mrs. O'Catherine, called on Teresa after reading it. Another meeting, more worried faces, more people trying to explain things I didn't want to hear. A judge said I couldn't talk about the case publicly. That confused me. Publicity was key for business growth. How could we get new customers without marketing? Investigators found money in Mom's jail account from unknown people. I recognized some as our big customers and was glad they were helping. Her Aunt Teresa's husband, Robert, started complaining about having the drug dealer's kid in their house. He worried about his reputation. They argued at night, whispering. I tried to help by offering to teach them customer service. I made a presentation with Sophia's crayons about household efficiency. It didn't go well. Robert said I had to leave so I wouldn't influence Sophia. Aunt Teresa cried, packing my things. I apologized for not explaining the business better, and promised better visuals next time. My next foster parents were an older couple who took in troubled kids. They had strict rules about not talking about my past, but I shared customer tips at dinner. They looked tired as I explained delivery, routes and inventory. More legal prep came. The prosecutor saw my memory could give tons of evidence. I practiced by making flowcharts of our network and pricing. I documented every lesson Mom taught me. At a pretrial hearing, I saw Mom. She looked thin and gray, hands shaking worse than ever. When our eyes met, she mouthed something I couldn't read. I mouthed that business was tough, but we'd get through it. She cried and hid her face. I didn't get why she was so upset. Businesses have challenges. Therapy got intense as the trial neared. Dr. Catherine said I didn't recognize my trauma. I thought she meant I was handling the business setback well. I made more business plans. In sessions, thinking about new markets for when Mom got out. My foster siblings avoided me after learning my story. They whispered about the drug dealer's kid. I tried explaining we were entrepreneurs, but they didn't listen. My grandma came from Puerto Rico. She hadn't seen me since the business started. She cried over my records, pointing at entries and shaking her head. She showed me pictures of Mom before the business, smiling, healthy, playing with me at the park. Then she showed Dad's death certificate. The dates matched when the vitamin business began. Videos came up during trial prep, showing me at 8 counting money while Mom coached me on customer satisfaction. The prosecutor played them, and everyone looked sick. I felt proud of my young self's business skills. Other parents from my old school said they found drugs in their kids' backpacks, linked to our network. I worried about quality control. We were always so careful. My school records showed I never missed delivery days but skipped school when Mom was sick. I thought it proved my dedication, but the prosecutor saw it differently. Mom's lawyer asked for a competency check after seeing my testimony prep. He said the exploitation was worse than anything he'd seen. I thought he meant I was super skilled for my age. The prosecutor wouldn't take plea deals because of the severe child endangerment. I made a presentation about how the business taught me skills, but no one wanted to see it. During testimony practice, I explained our loyalty program, points for free products. The prosecutor wrote everything down, shaking her head. A psychologist said I showed signs of being groomed for crime since my earliest memories. I thought she meant I was trained for business success and felt proud. A message came from Mom's cellmate via her lawyer. Mom was getting clean. I thought she meant better hygiene and planned to send soap. The trial started, and I was the main witness. I wore my entrepreneur pin from therapy craft time. Dr. Catherine tried to get me to take it off, but I said it showed who I was. I told the court how I learned to count money at 6. The jury looked shocked, but I thought they were impressed. I explained our growth, customer methods, inventory, and finances. The court reporter typed fast to keep up. When I talked about hiding products in my teddy bear during police visits, Mom sobbed. I felt bad but kept explaining our security plans. Good businesses need backups. The defense's questions made things worse for them. I shared more details: pricing, discounts, loyalty programs, expansion plans. Their lawyer looked defeated. as I answered happily. During a break, I asked the judge if we could restart the business after Mom got out. The courtroom went quiet. I used the break to hand out business cards to people in the gallery. At lunch, I heard prosecutors call my case the worst child endangerment they'd seen. I thought they meant our business was unforgettable. The afternoon showed medical records I didn't know about. At 9, I was hospitalized for exhaustion, but the doctor said it was withdrawal from touching drugs. I remembered it as a busy sales week. More records showed my small size wasn't normal. It came from handling toxic stuff. I thought about counting pills so carefully for customers. Mom's defense said her addiction should lessen her punishment. They stopped saying I wanted to help after my happy testimony made that impossible. Mom admitted everything on the stand, while I took notes for our future business book. Carlos testified, saying Mom used me because police don't suspect kids. I was mad he shared our trade secrets. When Mom broke down crying, admitting everything, I kept documenting. The verdict was fast, guilty on all counts. As the judge read the charges, I raised my hand to ask who'd take over the business. The courtroom whispered, and the judge called for order. At the sentencing 2 weeks later, I wore my entrepreneur pin. Dr. Catherine sat with me, saying Mom would get her punishment today. I'd made a plan to keep the business going and wanted to show the judge. Mom came in wearing orange, looking so old. I waved, but she stared at the floor. The prosecutor talked about how much I was involved, making the judge look mad. Mom's lawyer asked for a lighter sentence because of her addiction and help with the case. He read letters from inmates about her regret. I noted these for future business references. The judge called it the worst child exploitation case in 30 years and gave Mom 12 years minimum. I raised my hand to ask about the business, but Dr. Catherine stopped me. They took Mom away before I could share my plan. Nobody took my papers. The therapeutic boarding school looked normal outside but was different inside. No backpacks in rooms, supervised calls, daily group therapy. My roommate, Marcus, showed me around. Rules were strict: no crime talk, no recruiting, no business talk. I broke that rule in 2 days, explaining profit margins in math class. The teacher stopped me, but I'd drawn a supply chain on the board. Earning a session with Dr. Patricia, who worked on criminal thinking. She asked about a typical day before Mom's arrest. I told her about checking inventory, schedules, and appointments. She took notes as I explained quality control and customer rules. When I finished, she showed me a chart about how Mom trained me from age 6 to think drug dealing was normal. I saw it as business growth and found it useful. She sighed and set daily sessions. Group therapy was tough. Kids talked about their parents' crimes with anger or shame. I called it the family business and explained our distribution model. David, a boy, told about his sister passing out from pills she bought at school. The therapist asked if I saw the connection. I suggested better quality control. That night, Marcus shared how he helped his dad's meth lab, thinking it was medicine, until his sister died from bad product. It took him months to say drugs instead of medicine. I listened while organizing my notes, still thinking of it as business. A small breakthrough came in art therapy. They asked us to draw our families. I drew a business chart with Mom as CEO and me as operations manager. The therapist asked me to draw us doing something non-work. I couldn't think of anything. My pencil stayed still for an hour. Carlos's testimony transcript came during investigations. They moved me to a new school where no one knew my story. But I kept talking about my business. For an essay about role models, I wrote about Mom teaching me entrepreneurship. My new teacher, Mrs. O'Catherine, called on Teresa after reading it. Another meeting, more worried faces, more people trying to explain things I didn't want to hear. A judge said I couldn't talk about the case publicly. That confused me. Publicity was key for business growth. How could we get new customers without marketing? Investigators found money in Mom's jail account from unknown people. I recognized some as our big customers and was glad they were helping. Her Aunt Teresa's husband, Robert, started complaining about having the drug dealer's kid in their house. He worried about his reputation. They argued at night, whispering. I tried to help by offering to teach them customer service. I made a presentation with Sophia's crayons about household efficiency. It didn't go well. Robert said I had to leave so I wouldn't influence Sophia. Aunt Teresa cried, packing my things. I remembered my 5th birthday, her singing, homemade cake, before Dad died, before her hands shook. That night, I couldn't sleep. Marcus asked what was wrong. I told him about the cake, how Mom's voice was different. He shared how his dad built model planes with him before the lab. We talked about who our parents used to be. In the next group session, I said Mom was sick. The words felt weird. The therapist nodded. I added, she made me sick too, but I wasn't sure how. David squeezed my shoulder. Days went by with classes, therapy, and activities to change thinking. I stopped making business plans and read about addiction. The library had tons of books about dopamine, dependency, and triggers. In a video call with Aunt Teresa, I asked if Mom showed signs before Dad died. She said Mom was a great student, played volleyball, wanted to be a nurse, but Dad's cancer changed everything. Pills started for his pain, and Mom took them to I asked about the business timeline. She said it began 3 months after Dad's funeral, when Mom's grief was huge. She thought the vitamin business was harmless and never imagined Mom would use me. That afternoon in therapy, I cried for the first time since the arrest. Business tears, but something deeper. Dr. Patricia gave me tissues as I sobbed. She was supposed to protect me, I said, surprising myself. I stopped wearing my entrepreneur pin. Weeks later, in group therapy, I explained how I made it, how proud I was in court, how it was my identity. The therapist asked what I wanted to do with it. I didn't know. David said burn it. Marcus said keep it as a reminder. Others shared what they did with their past symbols. I held the plastic pin, feeling its weight. The school had a fire pit for letting go. That Friday, 3 of us burned things. A girl burned her dad's arrest report. Marcus burned a lab photo. I burned my pin, watching it melt. I waited to feel different, but nothing changed right away. That night, I slept without thinking of delivery schedules for the first time in years. Basketball became my escape. Running laps cleared my head. Playing required focus, not profit thoughts. My teammates didn't know my story, just that Mom was in jail. They treated me like any kid who missed shots. The coach saw me organizing equipment and asked if I wanted to be team manager, using my skills for real. I said yes, then talked in therapy about why it felt different from the business. Mom's letters came after 3 months. Full of apologies I'd heard before. Dr. Patricia helped me right back with boundaries. I told Mom about school, basketball, and seeing myself as more than her business partner. I didn't mention, still thinking about lost revenue, news came that Mom finished her jail drug program and got her GED. She started helping other inmates with addiction. Her letters got better, less about sorry and more about understanding what she did. I wrote about burning the pin, crying in therapy, playing basketball without profit thoughts, and sometimes watching the lunch line like customers. Recovery wasn't easy for either of us. 6 months in, during career class, kids talked about being mechanics or teachers. I said, social worker. The teacher asked why. I said I wanted to help kids like me counting pills, thinking they're entrepreneurs. The school set up volunteering at a community center. I helped with after-school programs, watching for kids who knew too much about adult stuff. One boy bragged about his uncle's import business. I knew that pride and told the director, who knew how to report it. My testimony helped convict 2 parents using their kids to sell drugs. I went to one trial, sitting with the prosecutor from Mom's case. The defendant's daughter, 12, testified proudly about her sales, wearing a business girl badge. I saw myself in her confusion when the verdict came. The prosecutor thanked me, saying my case changed how they handle kid exploitation in drug crimes. They made new interview rules and support systems. I felt something, not pride, but maybe purpose. At the year-end ceremony, I got a Most Improved Perspective award. I walked to the stage without my pin, just a kid who survived something awful and was healing. That night, I called Aunt Teresa about the award, college plans, and helping kids like me. She cried happy tears and said Sophia wanted me to visit. We planned supervised visits with no business talk. My college acceptance came on a Tuesday. State University's social work program with a partial scholarship for my essay about changing. I wrote about the birthday cake, Mom's shaky hands, burning the pin, and learning success meant breaking cycles, not making them. Dr. Patricia smiled at the letter. We'd worked on goals that weren't about crime or profit. She asked how it felt to have real goals. I admitted I sometimes compared the scholarship to drug money. Recovery meant owning those thoughts, not hiding them. Mom's parole hearing was set for 5 years out. I wrote a letter supporting her release with rules, treatment, supervised visits, No alone time until I was ready. I wrote about my progress, plans, and understanding what she took from me, but also hoping she could recover. The last day at school felt weird. Marcus was at his uncle's auto shop. David was starting college. We swapped numbers, not as drug dealers' kids, but as friends who got each other. I packed, leaving behind business habits, taking my basketball team photo, acceptance letter, and knowledge I survived something that could have broken me. Dr. Patricia hugged me, saying healing was a daily choice. Aunt Teresa picked me up. This time, I didn't think about lost money. I asked about Sophia's school play and shared my fall classes. We ate at a normal restaurant where no one knew me. That evening, in Aunt Teresa's garage, I found an old notebook with my kid handwriting, customer records, schedules, surveys. I read it, once so proud. Aunt Teresa asked if I wanted to keep it for therapy or evidence. I said no. We burned it in the backyard. This time, I felt lighter, not fully, but enough to breathe easier. College orientation warned about campus drug culture. I took notes, seeing it from the other side. My roommate thought the safety talks were boring. I didn't explain why I cared. My first social work class asked why we picked this field. I said my mom was sick, and I wanted to help families heal true without the heavy details. In study groups, I shared insights about addiction and families, surprising classmates. They thought I'd just read a lot. I let them believe that. Tutoring at the campus center used my organizing skills, making study guides, scheduling, tracking, progress. My boss praised my detail. I didn't tell her where I learned it. On my birthday, Mom called. Our first real talk outside official channels. Her voice was clearer but sad. We talked about school, her progress, and normal stuff, pretending we'd always been normal. The arrest anniversary passed quietly. I went, 2 classes, worked, ate with friends who didn't know the dates. Wait. That night, I wrote, reflecting on how far I'd come from the kid with the entrepreneur pin, and how far I still had to go. My professor assigned a project on intervention strategies. I studied early signs of kids used in drug operations. She loved it and connected me with agencies. My presentation used studies, not customer stories, and classmates asked great questions. Only the professor noticed my shaky hands when I talked about kids rationalizing crime. Winter break at Aunt Teresa's, Sophia asked for math help. I started turning word problems into profit calculations, caught myself, apologized, and tutored normally. Aunt Teresa squeezed my shoulder, grateful. A victim services coordinator called about another trial, parents using 3 kids to sell drugs. The youngest, 7. They wanted me to explain how kids normalize crime. I agreed, knowing it'd bring up hard memories. In court, I explained grooming and pride in criminal skills. The jury was horrified. The defendant's kids wore Daddy's Helpers t-shirts, breaking my heart with their confusion. The guilty verdict brought relief, not joy. Those kids would need years of therapy to get it. I hoped they'd find help like I did. Spring semester brought an internship at the Child Advocacy Center. The director sensed my deep interest and I shared enough to prove I knew the topic. She gave me a supervisor who knew trauma. My first case was a 9-year-old with drug packaging. In her backpack, her mom claimed she found it. The girl bragged about her home business, confused why everyone was upset. I knew every word. My supervisor saw my reaction and offered a break. I said no, and suggested ways to talk to her without feeding her criminal pride. The girl admitted to years of drug running, thinking it was for family vacations. Each case showed me my own story, the boy keeping perfect records to protect his dad. The girl thinking her mom's boyfriend taught her life skills, siblings competing to sell more for approval, all like my own confusion and pride. Mom's letters became normal. She wrote about books, job training, and helping other inmates. I wrote about internships, classes, and basketball. We connected without directly talking about the past, but it was always there. The scholarship committee asked me to speak at their fundraiser. I insisted on honesty, no perfect ending. I talked about recovery, still thinking like a dealer sometimes, and choosing healing daily. Donors shared their addiction stories. One gave me a check, saying her son used her grandkids like mom used me. She hoped education could change endings. Summer, I made workshops at the Advocacy Center for foster parents of kids from drug families. I taught how to spot business thinking, redirect skills, and validate intelligence while challenging crime ideas. The first workshop had 12 people. asking how to handle kids bragging about drug knowledge or resisting seeing parents as criminals. I answered from experience and training. A foster mom stayed, crying about her son's business plans. We talked for an hour about helping him change, while valuing his smarts. The center offered me a job after graduation entry level, working with exploited kids. I said yes, knowing this was my path, not entrepreneurship, but breaking cycles. Senior year, I took on cases, supervised staff, testified in court, and made tools to spot drug-involved kids. I started support groups for teens leaving the system, and wrote a thesis on reforming exploited kids' identities. My advisor said it could change practices. I spent months turning my experience into academic work, knowing kids can believe anything if loved ones say it's true. Mom's peril. Hearing came fast. I supported her release with rules, treatment, supervised visits, monitoring. The board approved. She looked small, leaving prison, older but clearer. We hugged briefly, both crying. She whispered apologies. I whispered forgiveness. We were both learning. She moved 40 minutes away, close for supervised visits, far for independence. Our first meeting was at a restaurant with an advocate. We talked about her job hunt, my graduation, and avoided the business. Graduation came with Aunt Teresa, Robert, and Sophia, there. Mom watched online, respecting boundaries. I crossed the stage as someone new, educated, healing, purposeful. The center decorated my office. My first case as a social worker was a 12-year-old selling pills at school, proud of his system. I saw myself in him, built trust with business talk, then shifted his view. I held space for his anger as he started to get it, promising he wasn't alone. Months of routine home visits, court, family sessions, trainings. Each kid's story was different but familiar. I specialized in exploitation, consulted statewide, published, and presented. Mom hit 1 year clean, then 2, got promoted at her restaurant, moved to better housing, built a recovery network. Our relationship grew: lunches, calls, visits, always careful, always with boundaries, always acknowledging the past. A call came about 10-year-old twins running a drug network at school. Parents claimed they didn't know, despite the kids' detailed records. The prosecutor needed me to explain normalization and pride. In court, I explained how love and intelligence are twisted, how kids' childhoods are stolen. The twins' testimony broke my heart, proudly explaining their vitamin business, confused by reactions. The guilty verdict meant relief. They could start healing. I hoped they'd find support. The center got a grant to expand. They asked me to lead a division for exploited kids, more staff, resources, and cycle breaking. I said yes, knowing every kid we helped might avoid my pain. That evening, I told Mom. She cried, proud of who I'd become. We talked about the twins, her understanding of what she did, and breaking cycles. I thought of the 10-year-old with the entrepreneur pin, bragging about profits. That kid felt far away, but part of me, guiding every talk with confused kids. The work was hard, watching kids realize their exploitation, supporting foster families, testifying, building programs, while recovering. Some days, I wondered if another job would be easier. Most days, I knew this was my place. 5 years after the arrest, I taught prosecutors, social workers, and therapists about exploited kids, sharing trust-building and identity support strategies. A guardian ad litem stayed, lost, about teens who thought they were entrepreneurs. We made plans for them. That night, I wrote about full circles, turning pain into help, success as breaking cycles, not building crime. Mom hit 5 years clean, earning less supervision. We celebrated quietly, both knowing the milestone. She'd rebuilt through choices. I'd rebuilt through therapy, education, and service. Neither journey was done. Recovery never ends. The center partnered with schools to catch at-risk kids early. I made screening tools, trained counselors, and built interventions to stop crime before it set in. Each saved kid felt like redemption, transforming my pain into something useful. Every kid who learned they were more than crime. Every foster parent who got it. Every prosecutor who saw exploitation clearly, built change. The pin's anniversary passed quietly. I paused, remembering it melt, the first step to who I am, grateful for the journey. Wishing it wasn't needed, knowing pain forged purpose. 10 years later, I became someone I never imagined, turning trauma into service, exploitation into prevention. Not the entrepreneur, I thought, but someone who saw confused kids, sat with their resistance, and guided them to truth. Success wasn't profit or customers, it was kids' lives redirected, families healing, cycles broken. Every kid who learned they were a victim, not a partner. Every parent choosing recovery. Every professional understanding exploitation. That was my real business. Not dealing drugs through kid confusion, but dealing hope through hard-won truth. Not building crime networks, but support systems. Not counting pills, but lives changed. The business I once loved nearly broke me. The life I built from its ashes ensured others wouldn't face that pain. Some stories don't end neatly. Mine doesn't. Mom still struggles. I sometimes think like a dealer. The twins are still in therapy. Other kids are counting pills, thinking they're entrepreneurs. The work goes on, messy but meaningful. If that 10-year-old saw me now, helping kids like us, maybe they'd see real success wasn't the business. It was surviving, healing, and protecting others, turning the worst thing into something better, proving kids are more than their exploitation. That healing's possible. That cycles can break, one confused kid at a time. That's my story, not the entrepreneur dream, but a life of understanding, not exploitation. Purpose from prevention, success in protected childhoods, not profits. The business that stole my childhood became my drive to save others. That's the only entrepreneurship that matters. Subscribe for more stories. It helps a ton. Thanks for sticking with me.